Hey everyone, quick update before we start. If you've watched the last few videos, you've probably heard me mention this, but if you're new here, here's a short version. We recorded the following episode back in January, but I wanted to make the announcement that my partner and I, as of February 18th, 2026, have assigned the paperwork to say that we've officially gotten married here in Japan. And she's here with me today.
Hello, everyone.
But there's more to this that I want to share with you. So we've put together the finished wedding photos and video in one story that ties not only the Sonic and Sally elements, but where we had our wedding in Okinawa and much, much more. I'll share more on this soon. But for now, let's start the show.
S-O-N-I-C, go! S-O-N-I-C, go! Go, 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 go! Let's go!
Greetings and salutation, coasters. It's Malzilla. And guess what? We're back!
Woo!
Right?
A dinosaur story. No. If you remember
Props
that
to
one.
you if you get that reference. So that was a lost Don Bluth movie from the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John
It's
Goodman
true about
as
a
a
lot of
T-Rex.
It's with a lot of Don Bluth films.
Yeah, old DB kind of got overshadowed. And then half of his movies ended up under Disney anyway. But I digress. Neon, Radrey, and I are not here to talk about 90s animation. We're here to talk about 2000s animation, and we are back with our Sonic X reviews. Now, I know you all been waiting for this. It's been a while. Radrey and I kind of got lost on the road of life, and we also realized that we needed to redefine, restructure things because it's kind of a rough series to get through. But we're happy that you're all here. I hope my Malzillisodes have entertained you in the time being. But we're going to do 3 episodes today, episodes 22, 23, and 24. And then in a few weeks, we hope to get episodes 25 and 26 along with our season 1 review. And then sometime after that, we will start into season 2 where they actually adapt the game. So we'll have actual things to compare it to. So before we get in, guys, do you have any thoughts? Want to say hi to the people out there listening?
I don't know. Keep it cool. Stay in school. I don't know. No, I don't have much to say. My voice is a little hoarse. Getting over. Actually, I'm not sick at all. It's just it's been really dry here in Tokyo right now. Like really, really dry. So it's like I've been using humidifiers and everything every night, but it's still dry as hell. How about yourself, Neon? How are things on your end?
Let's see. Cold, but it's south. It's the south, so it's freezing. It's a wet freezing. Other than that, still working on that BattleTech review.
You've been working on a BattleTech review?
I'm reviewing the Saturday morning cartoon.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, but I'll just say it's interesting to see different thing. The 90s was a weird time with Saturday morning cartoons.
Okay.
Before they all just went anime, but that's But other than that, it's been. Bleh.
Well, thanks for joining us again, Neon. It's good to have you here because I don't think anybody would talk objectively about Sonic X, so it's always good to have you.
Yeah, I grew up with this on 4Kids, so I have memories. It's good to talk about those days.
We're here for the memories. Anyway,
Yes.
Malzilla, do you want to set us off? Since
Yes,
your
let's
voice
start.
is not sounding tired.
Yep. Let's do it to it, as they would say in a different Sonic cartoon, a much better Sonic cartoon, but that's just my subjective opinion. Today's starting off with episode 22, Summer Vacation Chow Observation Diary, aka Little Chow Lost, and the Japanese translation is Natsu Yasumi Chow na Kansatsu Niki. I butchered that. I apologize.
No, you're fine. That sounds about right.
Sounds about right. It was directed by Masafumi Sato, who directed episodes 4, 10, and 16. And the lead writer was Kyoko Yoshimura, who wrote episodes 5, 9, and 15. Koichi Sasaki was the storyboarder, and they're a newcomer to the series. This episode originally aired in Japan on August 31st, 2003, and was released in the US in February 24th, 2004. Our episode opens up with Mr. Tanaka praying to a monument of a samurai. It's summer vacation, so Chris, Danny, Francis, Tails, Amy, Cream, and Cheese have traveled overseas to the homeland of Mr. Tanaka, aka not Japan, to go camping in the mountains. Huzzah! Mr. Stewart is accompanying them for reasons that seem sketchy at best, aka he's trying to keep an eye on them because he's a government agent. But still, summer vacation and your teacher taking your friends out, a little odd. Amy also comments that it's odd that he's coming with them. The group rides a bus into the mountains, making comments on how pretty the scenery is. We also learn that Sonic is off running around the island nation, as he doesn't really get to travel to those often, and we see a scene of him trying to outrace the Shinkansen bullet trains, I think with Mount Fuji in the background. Eventually they meet up with Mr. Tanaka, who takes them to their campsite, which is complete with a big central tent and some dining tents with like industrial military grade kitchen equipment. Looks pretty nice compared to the stuff I used in Boy Scouts. The kids go out to play and have a great time until Cheese gets washed away down the stream. That Cheese was complaining. He seemed to be having a good time. Mr. Stewart forms a search party while Tanaka and Amy stay at camp to work on lunch. Sonic, meanwhile, is dashing through what looks to be, Sonic X version of Kyoto, and is approached by some geisha who want to say hello. This makes Sonic blush, and he returns their greeting. Meanwhile, Eggman with Boko and Deco are here in the mountains on vacation, dressed in what looks to be like safari gear, which is kind of interesting because they're in Japan, not Africa. That was 2 episodes ago. And they complain about the heat and humidity. So it seems like summers in not Japan are just about as much of a bitch as they are in regular Japan. If you've never been to Japan in the summer, Radrey can give you the full breakdown. It's not pleasant.
I don't know if you need to wear an outfit like that, but sure. I mean, maybe you could over-exaggerate it, but whatever.
Yeah. The group of villains see the heroes searching for Cheese, but mistakenly assume that they are searching for a Chaos Emerald and figure they need to keep an eye on it so they can steal said emerald. The search party retreats back to camp. Oh, not the search party. Eggman and company go back to camp, where apparently one of the big backpacks that they were carrying was their robo slot machine, and they select E66 to attack the heroes. Meanwhile, Sonic finds himself outside a temple, which looks like the one in Kasusa. I forget the big one in Tokyo. And watches a bunch of street vendors make delicious fried food. Sonic is offered some, and he says thank you in English. It's kind of funny, his random English phrases. Eventually, the kids and Mr. Stewart find a tunnel, but Mr. Stewart can't go through, so the kids go in. Meanwhile, Stewart kind of low-key puts a tracker on Chris so they don't get lost. The kids eventually make it to the other side, and guess what they find? A Chow Garden, or Sonic's X version of a Chow Garden. And amongst all the wild Chow playing and having a good time is Cheese, and Cheese is happy to see them. The group decides to stay for a while and play with the Chow. Meanwhile, Sonic is wrapping up his sightseeing with a trip to one of the local castles where he waves at a bunch of Japanese schoolgirls who are waving and smiling and want to take pictures with him. Shadow has his Latinas, Sonic has his Japanese schoolgirls. Horn dogs, the both of them. On their way back to camp, the kids cheer up Cheese, saying they'll visit again soon next summer, but then they are confronted by Eggman and E66. Eggman demands the Chaos Emeralds that they found, but the kids have no idea what he's talking about because there is no Chaos Emeralds. They banter a bit, but since E66 is so big, it falls over and causes a landslide. Now, this kicks in a bunch of dirt into the water, which the kids make a fuss over because apparently Chow can only live with clear, clean water, and the mud dilutes everything. So they head back to the camp to fix the muddy water. Meanwhile, Eggman takes his robot back to the Flatlands and washes it off, only to see Sonic approach them with some souvenirs. Sonic asks him what he's doing, and Eggman nervously says he's on vacation, and Sonic says that's dumb. He one-shots E66 and meets up with Tanaka, Amy, and Stuart, who told them about the kids. He hands them the souvenirs, and then he dashes off to the Chow Garden. He helps them clean it up the pool by creating a giant whirlpool that basically throws all the mud outside of the pool and onto the kids. He apologizes for getting them muddy. They laugh and return to the camp to play with sparklers. And that is the episode. Fun fact, we found out that Chow exists both on this world and Sonic's world in his dimension. And apparently on both on Earth and Sonic's world, they are protected species. So, they're probably the mascot for their Sonic's version of the World Wildlife Fund, as opposed to a panda.
Yeah.
That's basically this episode in a nutshell. It's pretty cut and dry. Neon, I know you had some thoughts. Hit us with the best shot.
I have a lot of things. If I ramble too much, do tell me, because for those who are watching this, quick thing, this was written well before Sonic Frontiers. I have to preface this by saying this is like the most we have ever learned about the Chow for a long time. The big thing we learn here is they like clear water. That is like the most Sega has ever added to this. And by the way, that clear water thing, I highly doubt that. I played SA2. I saw the Chow swimming in the blood of the innocent. Don't lie to me, Sega. I saw that. But no, this is like the most Sega has done with the Chow until recent events, and it's they like clear water.
Well, the Chow weren't even in Frontiers. They were the Kokoro or Cacao, little stone people.
Again, given what we know about Chaos.
Yeah, well, part of the evolutionary, that's true. The ancients, and yada yada.
That's why I'm saying, not trying to. But that whole clear water, years later when I watched this and was thinking on it, it's, oh wait, I think that clear water is a foreshadowing to Chaos. I'm probably stretching it, but Chaos is a water creature and apparently a mutated Chow, and Chow like clear water.
I never put those two together, but okay. All right.
I'll roll with it. I'll roll with it.
I'm stretching things. I'm just saying this is the most anyone has done with the Chow. Just saying they like clear water. That's like the most they've ever done. Even Archie, from what I understand, didn't do much with the Chow.
Yeah, they kind of brought the Chow in when Ian came on, because that's kind of when they introduced Cream. They found a really funny way to bring Cream and Vanilla into the story.
They're
relatives. That's a
of
discussion
Bonnie?
for another.
There's a thing about the storyline that I'll get to later. As for the writing, it reminded me a lot of a Top Gear episode of a special.
You love your Top Gear, huh?
I do like watching the classic stuff, but the reason I bring that up, the way how Top Gear specials go is you have 3 presenters, and they kind of go, depending on where they are and what they're doing, you can kind of figure out which one's having fun and which isn't. The way how those specials goes, you usually have one who, he's driving the car, he's all right, but really, he's not doing anything. He's just talking about how much he likes this car. You have the second presenter who, the car's doing all right, but he's really enjoying the scenery and the people and the culture, and that's all fine and dandy. And then you have the third presenter who The car's engine has just shat itself. There's oil everywhere. It's dark. He hears the Wendigos and he's just, Hammond! Just something bad's happening. And that's kind of what I get with this, where Sonic's the one where everything is normal, it's fine, but really not the interesting part. You have Chris and the Burger King gang exploring, really the focus of this and what we really want to watch. And then we have Eggman where he's fighting off the Wendigos.
I'm gonna officially start calling them the Burger King gang from now on.
That's pretty good. Photoshop them over the 90s Burger King kids.
You won't be able to tell the difference.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
Yeah. But it's realistically, if I were to write this, I would just omit the Sonic stuff. Just have him appear at the end. To me, we don't need to see what he's doing. You could just infer he's doing something. He's having some fun. We don't need to see specifically, at least in my opinion. Other little things. Eggman with the slot machine was funny and reminded me of Lemmy from Motorhead. I'll be quick. For those who don't know, Techmoan did a video on a German slot machine that apparently Lemmy owned, and whenever he was on tour, he liked to play it. So
What
just
the
the idea
hell? I didn't know this. I mean, I know who Lemmy is, but I didn't know you had a thing for a slot machine. Okay.
Techmoan did a whole video about it, but
Okay.
yeah, that seems odd. Musicians are on the road a lot. They like having anything that makes them feel nice helps. For some people, it's Quake 3. For others, it's a slot machine.
I just thought that was like some random Japanese thing, but okay, yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, they have to show Eggman doing have to get the robot somehow. He can't just pull tarot cards and be like, I'll take this. No, it has to be the slot machine. We've already got the keyframes and everything.
Right.
But one of the things that this episode reminded me a lot, and this is a bit weird, when Sonic X was on 4Kids, there was another show that aired same time, and that was the 2003's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
There's an episode in that called Sons of the Silent Age. It's an adaptation of a comic. The whole story about that is there's a fish person who's suffering from radiation burns. They can't save the fish person, but they can save the eggs. But to do that, they have to... Well, they don't destroy a nuclear plant. They have to manipulate the demolition so that radiation doesn't go into the river. I'm paraphrasing. There's a lot to it. And comparing these two episodes were very similar to me of you have to care for the environment. Water is an important resource. If you don't care for the water has to be pure or the chow won't live or the fish people. But I think, at least personally, the way how the Turtles did it was a bit better, at least more action-packed. This is a more simplified way of going about it. Oh, there's a lot of mud in the water. We have to remove the mud. If that makes any sort of...
Any sort of sense. I don't know. I mean, I don't think this show's not as environmental friendly. I mean, now we don't give a shit about the environment. I mean, maybe opposed to like the 90s when we really cared about the environment. Like, that was our bread and butter in making cartoons. Now it's like, I don't know. Depression! I don't know. What else?
Where's Captain Planet?
Brain rot!
Where's Captain Planet? Oh, he's in the ditch.
Yeah. He's been in there for ages, right?
Yeah. We poke him with a stick. But
what did we even care about in the early 2000s? I don't even remember.
9/11.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. I guess terrorism. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it was the war on terror. That was
Global
the big
security.
thing. Yeah.
Right. Freedom fries and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Other than that, the only thing I'll say is with the Chow being there, I really going forward, I really wish the show did more of showing there's some connection between Sonic's world and Chris's world. Like, this is a hint at there's possibly a connection, much like the shovel claw, but it doesn't go anywhere as far as I can tell. Even with Chaos arriving, that's because of multiverse shenanigans.
Yeah, this is the one like franchise, this IP, right? This is the one IP where I want to learn more about the, you know, the lore, right? I want to learn about this. I want to know what they call salad forks, you know, in this universe, right? I mean, I understand that there's some like what is it, lore out there. Like I'll give you an example, like Star Wars, right? Where it's like the more you started to learn about the Jedi, the more it just wasn't interesting. Yeah, you
The more
know,
they were a cult.
right? Well,
They
I mean,
weren't
yeah,
the
they're like
cool,
a cult, and
space knights. They were a child abducting cult.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, like when they were more mysterious, they were a lot more interesting, right? And they're trying to do that
Right.
here with Sonic, where they're trying to like make everything mysterious, but I just find it so boring. I don't know. I mean, like I
So
agree
you're
with you,
saying
Neon. I want some more Chow lore.
we need to find the Sonic metachlorians then, right?
I don't know. I mean, it's something,
Man,
man. I mean, at least Frontiers had the balls to like give us like a story about who the Chow are, or the ancients, or make some sort of connection. I mean, I kind of feel like the story falls apart in Frontiers, but that's
They tried.
besides the point. Yeah, I mean, they did try, and they tried to like establish some sort of a quote unquote story, you know. So to like give me an idea that I'm not just sitting down watching a cartoon, you know. I don't want to have that experience, you know. But I guess another things I guess I could say about your comments, Neon, is that. Yeah, and I don't think you're saying that we didn't actually go. We don't get much about the Chow even in SA2 or SA1.
Yeah, SA1, because the Chow, that was the first time they appeared. That's pretty much where we all learned about it, which was the Chow liked to be around the Chaos Emerald. One of them mutated, became Chaos. I assume FEV was present, but Fallout aside, the Chow mutated. It protects the Chaos Emerald and then also protected the Chow because Pachamatic, whatever, decided to go all
Patrick Kamek.
Gesundheit.
Well
Decided
played.
to go all warlike. Also, something about the Dark Brotherhood, but they've gone retconned. And literally everything about the Chow from a franchise perspective was in Sonic Adventure. In Sonic Adventure 2, there's like nothing. We learn nothing lore-wise. I mean, we learn there's schools, but that's more of a gameplay mechanic. And also apparently heaven and hell exist, but maybe I don't know. That's why I poked the joke about swimming in blood water, because in SA2 there's hell and the water's red. But now outside of Sonic Adventure, there's like no lore of the Chow. I think with IDW, the most they did is said, "Oh yeah, Chow race." There's like nothing.
It's perfectly
Well, it's
fair.
interesting now that we factor Frontiers in. It's interesting to see is Chaos, still a mutated Chow, or is he the missing link between the ancient Korokoros and the current day Chow? So, is he the missing link? We'll find out. Maybe in the next game. Who knows?
We'll probably learn in like 10 years when they do another story.
Well, let's hope.
And we learn that apparently, yeah.
So I take it you're a big Chow person, Neon. You're all about the Chow. Can I say that?
I wish Sega would do more with the Chow.
Okay.
As someone who's kind of became a fan of Digimon with the V-Pets, it's shocking that Sega has this character that could very easily become its own thing. They spent so much time with the Chow to the point they did more with the Game Boy Link than Nintendo ever did because of the Chow. And the Chow are just not. It's
from what I understand, it's just like a Tamagotchi or something. Like you can just raise it. Because when I was playing, Sonic Adventure, I just always skipped that part. I'm like, I'm good with this. Same thing with like Sonic Adventure 2.
unless you're shooting for all 100 emblems, you can skip the Chow Garden. But some people really like the Chow Garden.
Because all I
They
understand is
find
that
it
you can.
therapeutic.
It's very therapeutic. I mean, the thing is that I feel like there was a lot of lore there because I'd always skip it, but I'm like, I'm not interested in Chow. I mean, like they're like the Porgs in Return of the Jedi, right? Or not Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
What was that? The Last Jedi.
Last Jedi.
And it's just like they don't really get much of a background. And I mean, I understand that some people they're like pets to some people, and they grow them, and or you can turn it into like a Lovecraftian abomination, right? Um, but that's about all I understand about it. I never really got into it.
yeah, it's if you're playing chat with Chow, you're not getting into it for the lore. Not even in SA1, because they rarely factor into anything. You just play it because it's a fun little mini game.
Okay.
So
That mini game being just your Chow ate today. Your Chow grew 3 centimeters today. That sort of thing.
yeah, and then you
Okay.
race them like greyhounds, and if you play SA2, you have them fight to the death.
Okay, so it's like not Pokemon, kind of.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I would say it's closer to Digimon, but that
Okay.
doesn't really work.
My
That doesn't even work
mistake.
either.
Right,
It's
right.
you're just raising a digital pet.
Okay.
Tamagotchi's probably the closest.
Okay. All right. But no actual like where is this thing from? Why does it fly? Why is it blue? Why is it in Sonic's world? Why is it on Earth?
They've
That's not
never.
important. None of that's important. Just close your
Yeah,
eyes and enjoy the game.
yeah. They're that inconsequential. Cheese is like the most. Even chocolate is inconsequential.
Okay. Hmm.
It's also surprising that Chow don't appear anywhere else. That they don't appear in season 2. Our season, well, they appear in the adventure adaptation, but you kind of have to. But they don't
Okay.
appear They don't appear after that, and they don't really factor in the Space Battleship Yamato episodes. So it's
They're kind of just like background sakura, as they say in Japanese. Like I'll tell you, I'll teach you one thing. In Japan, they often call something like a sakura, like when they have like a picture, like it's just the background. Like when they have a bunch of like if you ever go to Japan and you see you go to the red light district, they'll have a bunch of pictures of these women up that are supposedly a part of the establishment, but they're not. They're just pictures from the internet or AI generated images of women that supposedly like are represent the the establishment, right? I guess it's the same thing with the Chow, right? They just have them there as the background. And one thing I was going to point out about Malzilla's note here, like he says about how, oh, wait, you said something about how like there's all the Chow in the Chow Garden, but we can't even differentiate them. You know,
yeah.
they don't. We can't even really tell the difference between them. I don't know if I'm just racist or what, but
You Chowist.
And
I'm a
it
Chowist.
isn't
Yeah.
until like the GameCube port of Sonic Adventure that you could name them. Like
Oh, I didn't know
you were
that.
just expected to. Yeah, you were just expected to. Well, no, I think in the Dreamcast port you could name them, but I'm just gonna say the DX port did a lot for the Chow, which isn't a lot, but given what we have with the Chow, it's a lot.
Hmm.
Like if we just learned that Chow eat ribs, that's a lot because there's nothing else.
Hmm.
There's
Okay.
Well, Raji, what'd you think of the episode?
It's fine. None of those. It's fine. You may notice that the samurai statue in the beginning is Kusunoki Masahige. He's like a famous samurai. So, I wanted to point out you call this not Tokyo. What about this or not Japan? Why do you call this not Japan?
Well, it's more of a case of that it's clearly Japan, but it's not like Japan. They don't call it Japan. because it kind of plays into a joke I have in the next episode. So it's whatever this world's version of Japan is. So it's
Okay.
Japan, but it's not Japan.
Sort of like how this, or what is the showrunners or Four Kids or whoever the hell's behind it, took off all the English words or all the English signs. It's funny when some of them slip, where they still have some of the English words in them. It's like it feels like
Eggman's machine still has words.
yeah, like I feel like like fucking Leonardo DiCaprio, like pointing at the screen, like in that meme. Whenever I see words in Sonic X, this is how bored I am watching the show. One other note I guess I had here is Sonic's depiction here. Is this what Sonic Team wishes the brand would be like? That he could just show up in any country or part of the world and just be accepted for who he is? Like he's some celebrity who just randomly shows up? Because I feel like that's their vision for this character.
Celebrity, cryptid, urban legend, kind of just, nomad, vagabond, call me what you will.
I get the impression that that's like what Sega of Japan, that's how they vision Sonic. He's one of these like celebrities that just shows up, so you can just throw out all your money.
Have you ever seen Cool Cat?
Why does that sound familiar? Cool Cat. Was that with a K?
I think there was some guy that made like some safety videos of Cool Cat does this. I believe, I forgot who it was. He was going through the worst videos ever, and that was one of them. The point is, it's a guy no, it's a guy in his fursuit.
Oh, I'm looking at it now. Cool Cat versus Dirty Dog. Virus Wars.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a sequence where he's at a party and he's showing all these B-list celebrities. Is Montel Williams B-list?
Maybe. I know the name.
Oh.
If you held a gun to my head, I could not tell you what he's famous for, though. I've heard that name before, though.
Yeah, same here.
He used to do talk shows.
Okay.
Montel talk. The point is.
Okay, well, tell us more about this Cool Cat.
Just you describing of, he comes in and everyone goes, oh, he's awesome. Just that reminds me of that. You have a celebrity that, everyone fawns after, and he just kind of skedaddles off. It doesn't matter if he's appearing at the Dead Mall. Everyone's going to go to him.
Huh. Yeah, I could see that. I guess I need to catch up on my Cool Cat lore. I mean, this character looks like something like they create in a YouTube like series, like as a joke, right? Or like they put in The Simpsons. Anyway, I'm talking about something nobody can see. Everybody who's listening just needs to go Google it for themselves. It's not a particularly great looking character, but it's a character.
I wouldn't bother. It just, how some people are. But anyway.
Okay, and I think it's kind of cool. I mean, because it's a cool cat. Anyway, let's move on. One note I made is that the plot for Eggman is slightly different in the sub and dub. In the sub, Eggman is on vacation, but in the dub, he's only there to look for a Chaos Emerald. I don't know. I mean, people always talk about how the sub for the show is much better. When I don't know, sometimes I'm leaning on the dub being better. Like, that makes a lot more sense that he would just be, in a jungle area or in a hot location because he's looking for a Chaos Emerald, not because he's on vacation. You don't go to Japan for fucking summer vacation. It's just too hot. And if you do, you're crazy. Or it's like, I've never been to Japan before and I want to go to Japan and I want to go to the hottest places in the goddamn world. So, I mean, I know it's not, okay, maybe you could argue it's not the jungle, right? It's definitely not the jungle, but it definitely does feel like you need to prepare for a fucking safari in some parts of the, the Japanese countryside. But relatively, I don't know. The dub has some wins, and I think this is one of them. actually has a lot more than I was expecting. I don't know. Let me ask you guys, the dub, the sub, which one do you prefer, or is it kind of like a mixed bag?
Leave a mention in the comments.
Wait, you don't have an opinion? You don't have any
Oh no,
like?
I was just I thought you were addressing like the listeners. I know you were addressing me in particular.
Oh, anybody?
I prefer the sub. I mean, yeah, they actually cut a lot in this episode with the dub, which is kind of funny. But like,
Somebody opening a
you know,
beer.
I get the excuse of looking for a Chaos Emerald, but usually, and this is something they pick up later, is they usually, if they do it, there's usually like an energy signature for the Chaos Emerald. And
Yes.
since they really don't mention anything, that would be kind of like, oh yeah, we're here searching for a Chaos Emerald. But like every time we've done it before, there's been this like energy signature, so it would feel kind of redundant. So, the vacation kind of makes sense, and they all go, "Oh yeah, we're looking for Chaos Emerald," because that's what they assumed the kids were looking for. But as we know, what happens when you assume? You make an ass out of me and you.
Yes,
And
sir.
Ming.
Yep. How about you, Neon? Thoughts on the sub and dub? I think
I
sometimes
think
the dub wins over the sub, and sometimes the sub wins over the dub. But
I think it depends on the episode. I'll say there are times when I prefer the sub's music mixing because the sub knows
oh
when to be
yeah,
quiet.
yeah,
But when it comes to the dub really turns this into there's some action, whereas the sub makes it more of this is a really, really kids show. Let's keep it calm. Let's keep it quiet. We don't want the kids to run
As
around
opposed to aggressive saxophone at turn to 11.
you mean with Rouge? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. It's I don't know. It's at this point it's 50-50. Um there are times when I prefer one and there are times when I prefer the other. Um and I think what I'm going to have to do is bringing up the turtles again. I think I'm going to have to go with the direction that the dub goes because at least they try to make it entertaining and action packed. Which flows kind of nicely with the rest of the shows that 4Kids had. The sub goes more. You can feel the sub really feels like who it's supposed to be for, which is very young kids. At least that's what I'm getting.
Well, that's what I get from the dub.
Yeah, that's what I get from the dub too. I mean, the sub definitely it's serviceable. I mean, it does the localization and all that. Maybe you could argue that it's the well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, usually people who want to watch something that's subtitled are usually I'd say they swing a bit older, but
I will say in the case of Eggman, I do like it that the sub version makes him more like a human being, where yeah, he's evil, but he has to go on breaks, which seeing what I've seen with Sentai is something that is very common with these shows. The villains are evil, but they still have their union mandated vacation.
Okay. Well, this episode gets my review of 2 Dirty Chow out of 5.
Okay. I gave it a 3 out of 7 Chaos Emeralds.
I give it 2 Captain Planets in the ditch. Watch Sons of the Silent Age. It's way better and is basically the same story as this.
2 dead Captain Planets.
I think there's like
why are there
Captain
2?
And
Wait a minute, there's 5?
I think one. I know there's Captain Planet. There's some evil twin of him. They're both dead in the ditch.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Pollution Man or something like that.
Yeah. Captain Planet, Pollution Man are there. They're dead in the ditch. That's the rating. Just watch Sons of the Silent Age. It's better.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I thought it was just an overall pretty benign episode. It's it's not terrible and it's not offensive, but it's just, it happened. That's basically it.
Yeah, it happens. That's
Did you have any notes on this episode, Malzilla, or no?
I mean, it was again pretty cut and dry. I thought again, yeah,
It's a real
it's pretty
nothing
cut and
burger, man. It's sort of
dry. It
like
is.
I was just saying.
I mean, you could make the joke of like, I kind of made the joke in my review of like, Shadow's got his Latinas and Sonic's got his Japanese girls, but it's all pretty meh.
it's interesting that in the English dub they omit the geishas.
Oh yeah, that's
which
right.
I don't know. Well, that's a localization thing, I can guess, but
Sonic shouldn't be flirting with women. This is a Christian show. Yeah.
Sonic is the wind.
Yeah. Sonic he doesn't have time for hunky girls. I have to think
Sorry, Amy.
Yeah, sorry, Amy. Okay. I guess the only other thing I have to say about this episode is just that if I were a kid, I'd want to watch something else, man. It's like, God damn it, I wasted like 20 minutes of my time watching this. Where's something else?
watch Sons of the Silent Age.
Yeah, or whatever, man. Power Rangers, or I don't know. Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
or
there
that
you
one
go.
time Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers were on the same time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are some good episodes in the Sonic X thing, I won't lie, but this is one you could definitely skip.
All right. Shall we move on?
Please.
All right.
Yeah.
Episode 23. Mayhem, the Sixth Chaos Emerald, aka Emerald Anniversary. Translation, Daikoran Six Chaoso Emeraldo. Directed by Keiko Oyamada and Sim Sang-il. Keiko directed episode 19, 14, and 11, and 7, and 3. So, and then written by Chinatsu Hojo and storyboard Toshihiko Masuda. Air date in Japan, September 7th, 03. Air date in the US, March 6, 2004. In Area 99, the government is working on a secret project reverse engineering Eggman tech into something they call Project Beetle and hope that it will be finished soon. It's just a giant beetle mech tank, a big bad Beetleborg, if you will. Meanwhile, Rouge and Topaz are scoping out a jewelry store. Topaz sitting on a bench drinking her coffee, and Rouge hanging upside down with her gem scouter, checking things out, and the two bicker. Topaz calls her a thief and kind of makes a scene, so Rouge has to, hide in the bushes. But then Nelson Thorndike rolls up in his stretched limo and his half a dozen bodyguards, and they watch as he waltzes into the store, and he's buying a ring for his anniversary to Lindsay, and decides to buy their new hot big Chaos Emerald, and he has him put it on a ring, and he says it's for their anniversary, and he's super happy. Meanwhile, Rouge and Topaz decide to steal the emerald from Nelson for the government and themselves. Mainly the government for Topaz and, Rouge and her gems. She's not going to let him have them. Meanwhile, back in his limo, Nelson uses the phone to call home, and, Tanaka picks up, does some, bowing to... There's a lot of Japanese customs in this one, so... And they kind of... Amy and Cream are wondering why, and they explain it, and he basically tells everyone to meet him in Film Dom City, which is basically this world's version of Hollywood.
Not Femdom,
Now,
City, mind you.
Not Femdom, not, Findom, Filmdom. Can be confused. Before they head out, they bring the Chaos Emeralds with them and notice that, and they mention that, when Chaos Emeralds meet with Chaos Emeralds, they're not adjusted to. Some energy shenanigans happen, so whatever. So they all head out. Mr. Stewart is at a, cafe, and he sees them, and he hops through the sunroof of his car and follows them. Very, Oh God, what's the show I'm thinking of right now? Dukes of Hazzard, but instead of sliding, across the car hood, he just dives right through the sunroof. Eh. Once in Film City, Chris officially introduced Sonic and Company to his dad, and is just doing the introductions to Tails and Cream and all that, and Amy. Mr. Stewart's there, so he also introduced Mr. Stewart, and they're like, "Wait, what are you doing here?" And they just kind of roll with it, and they said, "Oh, I'm glad Chris likes his teacher so much." Yada yada. So Nelson kind of explains why he's invited them. So his big plan because today is his anniversary, with Lindsay, and so he's going to. It's also the last day of filming for the current movie that Lindsay's filming. So the idea is he's going to swap places with the actor playing the love interest, and they're going to film the scene, and he'll present the ring to her, and everyone will say congratulations, and dude's a total wife guy. Total wife guy. Good for him. Respect. Meanwhile, while he's explaining this, you see Rouge and Topaz are like cramped in the air vent listening, smirking at each other, thinking like they're going to steal this. But then Nelson opens up the case, and the emerald starts reacting with the Chaos Emerald that Sonic has, and you get this big old light thing shooting up in the sky. Knuckles, who's also in town, with his Chaos Emerald, notices it and starts gliding to it, and then off in the distance, Eggman in the Egg Fort 2, which if we hadn't mentioned earlier, is just basically a knockoff of the Starship Enterprise, notices as well, so he heads that way too. So they eventually close the case, and the energy starts going off, and then they go off to pull off the scheme. So everything looks good, except Nelson trips and knocks his wig off and falls in front, and the case opens, and again, you get another reaction between that emerald and the Sonic and Knuckles Chaos Emerald, and starts wrecking the studio, and Lindsay gets super pissed off, and they start arguing, yada yada, and then Eggman crashes into the studio and starts, trying to steal it. So Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles run interference by leading the Badniks, leading Eggman and company through some of the various sound stages. Basically, dinosaurs attacking people in a car, a spaceship approaching a moon-like space station, and a giant ship sailing on the sea. $5 to those who know what movies those are referencing.
I could name one of them.
During this huh?
I could name one of them, but continue.
I continue. For those wondering, it's Jurassic Park, Star Wars, and Titanic. They even do the Titanic pose. It's kind of funny.
Well, that's what you're talking about. They're talking about something else. All right, continue.
No. Yeah, so during the kerfuffle, Rouge sneaks the emerald from Lindsay and Nelson, but Eggman swipes it from her, and then Topaz just hops on the Eggmobile with Rouge to get the emerald back, but Eggman throws them off into a tank, but taking out Mr. Stewart as well along the way. I was hoping they'd do a Jaws reference and have it like a shark in the tank, or like a robo shark, but they didn't. Kind of a missed opportunity. So Eggman summons his next robotic minion, E74 Weezo, which apparently is a weasel robot. I thought it was a dragon because it was green and had a flamethrower, but apparently it's a weasel.
Okay.
And it threatens the Thorndikes. Nelson tries to protect his family, but Weezo is challenged by Mr. Tanaka, saying that it is his job to protect the Thorndikes, so he does a little kata and trying to be intimidating, but Weezo just swaps him away with his tail. So Sonic comes in and battles the robot, and they go on a little chase through the studio. They pass a wannabe Godzilla and get it torched by the flamethrower. Kind of funny. Meanwhile, Knuckles is following them, and Weezo has Sonic cornered, but when Knuckles sees this, he thinks Sonic's underwater, but apparently there's actually a fish tank aquarium between the two of them. When he realizes this, he tells Sonic to jump, and then he punches the tank. The water comes out, short circuits the robot, and saves the day. Now, Eggman, realizing it's his time to run, he flies away with the emerald. Lindsay, impressed by her husband's bravery, has a sweet moment with Nelson, and everyone wishes them a happy anniversary. Tanaka tries to commit seppuku because he failed to stop them, but Tails tells them to stop and says it's weird. The episode kind of ends on a moment with Rouge lamenting that she didn't have the emeralds and vows to get them to create a miracle. So yeah, that's what happened. I actually got a kick out of this, partly because I'm a movie buff, but you know.
You know
It's
what's
fun.
funny is that in the dub they completely take out the seppuku thing. You know, did you notice
Yeah,
that?
I could see that kind of getting away.
I don't even know why that was added in the. You know, we joke about the music they add for Ella and Tanaka, but compared to what they did in the sub, this is like, what the.
I mean, why is he like the karate guy? Is that what you're saying?
No, why, you know, no, not that, well, kind of that, but just I'm going to commit seppuku for failure. It's like, what the.
I mean,
Huh?
that's kind of a Japanese thing. I mean, like an old
Yeah,
timey
it's a
thing.
little much for a kid's show. But so you can pretty much tell that, you know, the Japanese initial audience is a little bit definitely older than what 4Kids was aiming for.
I thought it was fine. I don't know. I thought it was cute. I thought it was hilarious, but I don't know.
Yeah, again, you know, it's kind of, if you like movies, if you like pop culture, this is a fun episode because you get the, like, you know, the little nods. I mean, hell, you could even, you know, make a loose comparison of, I mean, well, now that I say that, it actually makes a little bit more sense. Topaz is in a tank top, so you could say her and Rouge climbing through the vents is an allusion to Die Hard.
Okay.
I mean, that's a, you know, grasping at straws, but you know, it's kind of
I
fun.
got a better. I mean, I was thinking this is the Pee Wee's Big Adventure episode, but I got a better question for you. So, does
Mhm.
this episode confirm that Rouge and Topaz are an item? Why are they hanging out outside of work? I mean, maybe you could just say they're
Well,
good friends, but it's
they're
like,
roommates. Let's leave it at that. You know.
okay, I just think it's
um.
interesting. They have them positioned together, like they're the thief and the reluctant thief.
Well, it's funny because again, you know, Rouge is in this story so much earlier than the games would have had her, so they had to do something with her. Because again, you know, we haven't introduced Shadow yet, and Rouge and Shadow are, you know, they're usually the double act, which they're really, you know, Sega's starting to push the two of them, you know, as a duo more than they have in the last few years. So you got all that. But yeah, but the thing is, Topaz has a very complimentary personality. She is a bit of the no nonsense, more to Rouge's selfishness, so it works out pretty well. And
Okay.
yes, people do ship them a lot.
I mean, this is the
They,
episode
they'll
that
support
confirms
Rouge
that
and
ship,
Topaz,
I'd
but they
say.
won't. But they won't support Sonic and Elise. Double standards. Double standards. What about you,
Sure.
Neon? What do you think of this one?
Uh, the episode reminded me a lot of, how do I put it? It reminded me a lot of uh, Tiny Toons and Animaniacs, where they were referencing a lot of movies, some of them recent, some of them not. Watching this, one of the things I went is, how old are some of these movies? And looking back at it, Star Wars and Jurassic Park, okay, not too bad. These were well into the public consciousness. Titanic is a bit of an odd inclusion. I know it made a lot of money, yeah, but
It was
it's
the highest grossing film of all time at that time. You know.
right, but it's still a bit of an odd inclusion since I don't think
Yeah,
a lot of
right.
the viewers would have.
Well,
It
especially
was a big
kids, right?
it was a big thing. You know, it was on two VHSs. It was a big event movie, and it won. Not only did it make a lot of money, it won a lot of Oscars too. So
Now
it
that
was
being
just kind
said,
of, you know, they're
it
going
was a
for
bit
blockbusters,
right.
and you know,
Now I
Jurassic
will.
Park, early '90s. I mean, everyone knows Star Wars. You
Yeah.
know,
Now that being said, it did kind of remind me to talk about another show that aired on 4Kids, Kirby. I remember
I
doing a quick
remember that.
read on it, and it said, you know, kids will love the stories, and the parents will love the social commentary. They say,
What?
take that as you will.
Okay.
It, you know how people are promoting things, but it watching that kind of reminded me of, okay, this might be a cheeky reference for the adults to get, but other than that, it's the only thing that really got me was just the Chaos Emerald was really shiny.
Shiny.
Yeah, it reminded me of the Boondocks, where some of the rappers are all blinged out, and one of them takes his watch and he can't see anything because the light is shining off of him. And he's like, I can't see anything. And when the other ones are poking fun of them, he shows them and they're all flash banged. And it isn't until one of them puts their sunglasses down do they read the time. That's about all I
That's a
can
much
say
better
about the
show.
episode.
Why can't we just watch that?
Well,
no.
Well, maybe when Sonic does a crossover with the Boondocks,
Yeah,
we
I
will.
guess so. When that day comes.
yeah.
I mean,
But
I don't know. If you love this show and I'm being a danner, please feel free to like say, Radley, you're wrong, and write something in the comments, or heck, feel free to correct me on the spot. But I don't know. I guess my notes on this, unless somebody else wants to go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead for your
you got
notes.
something?
No, I was gonna say I like this episode. I gave it a 6 out of 7.
6 out of 7 shiny objects.
Pretty much.
Okay. I give it probably not 3, probably 2 out of 5 film references.
So you liked this as the same as much as you liked the last one?
Pretty much. I mean, I didn't really have many opinions. Maybe 2.5, if to be fair. 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Neon?
I'm probably going to be the party pooper. I'm going to say this is more of a, I'd say maybe a 2 out of 5. It's okay, but yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
it really
I
did.
liked it. You guys didn't. No biggie.
Um.
I clearly am the one with best taste here.
Fair. I did have some other notes. One thing I wanted to say is I think my problem with this show is Eggman is just not a threat to anybody on this show. I mean, he's just a pest to everybody. Like, ah, man, that guy's here. Like, he's the comic relief nobody wants. Like, oh, no, get him away, get him out of the picture, no! That sort of thing. I don't know. I prefer the Eggman or the Robotnik that's a threat, you know, that people fear, that people don't want to be next to, you know? I don't know.
You know, it is an interesting kind of dynamic where, if you grew up with Western U.S. Sonic between, obviously Adventures of Sonic and, that Robotnik, he was still trying to take over Mobius. He was a joke, but, he still had a few plots that were pretty insidious. But yeah, between Archie Robotnik, Sad AM Robotnik, and even, early days of Archie Eggman, he was a much bigger threat. Even in continuities where they had other big threats, he had to be a bigger threat. Where if you go back to more of the Japanese side of things, he was a bit more of a kind of haha, I'm a guy shaped like an egg, and I like putting little animals in robots. And yeah, again, just kind of how do you like your villains? It's kind of the big thing.
I don't know, man. I'd even say Jim Carrey's more threatening than he is, you know? And Jim Carrey's kind of a goofball, you know? Anyway. What else? One of our characters, the teacher in the the dub, or what we know as Mr. Stewart. Why does he want a Chaos Emerald? Does he want to give it to the government?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a government. He's working for the government.
Okay.
He's a spook.
All right. Um,
It's
my other note here says, I mean, I got a bunch of other notes here that are just about the production of the show, and it has nothing to do with the actual like episode itself. So maybe I could save these notes to the end.
Yeah,
I can move
maybe
on to the
save
next
those
part.
for. I mean, we could save that for when we do like the season 1 wrap up, because that's kind of more of, if we're going to talk production and like what's the goal. I feel like that's more for that.
Hmm.
I could be wrong. If you want to talk about it now, go for it.
Let's save it at the end. I mean, these are kind of mostly production tip or things on the show. Or if we're running out of time, we could probably save it for the wrap up. But since we have Neon here, maybe he might have some input to say on some of these questions I have about the creation of the show. But let's save it to the end.
I can. Yeah, I'll do my best. So, but yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, then let's move on to the last episode of this batch, which is Runaway Sonic Big Capture Operation, aka How to Catch a Hedgehog, Boso Soniko Hokaku Daisakusen. Written by Makoto Moriwaki, who also wrote episode 18, actually directed, written by Masashiko Shiorishi, storyboard Koji Hori, aired in the US on March 13, 2004, aired in Japan September 14, 2003. We begin this episode on some random farm as Sonic and Amy stare down Eggman and his latest robot, E88 Lightning Bird. E88 grabs Amy and flies off. Amy tries smacking the robot with her Pico hammer, but her dress begins to tear, and she calls the robot lewd. Tails shows up and shoots Sonic a ring, and he one-shots E88 and Eggman. But unknowingly, as he crushes the robot, a small microchip circuit flies into his ear. He and Amy fall into a pile of hay. Amy starts glazing Sonic, calling him the wind and herself a flower petal being taken away by the wind. She says that she is certain Sonic will take her away one day. Sonic Wind fans are clearly, this is clearly Son Amy propaganda. I see through your lies. Amy looks to Sonic, who isn't paying attention. It's clear he knows something is in his ear. Amy admonishes him and Sonic says, "What's wrong?" in English, not hearing her because, again, something's in his ear. Back at the mansion, Tanaka is working on one of their cars while Amy is agitated with Sonic as he continues to fiddle with his ear on the roof. Chris and Tails come over and ask what's up, which Amy says Sonic is being annoying. Tanaka presses a button on the car remote for the garage and it affects Sonic and sends him running off uncontrollably. The trio follow him in the X-Tornado, and along the way, Sam Speed, now calling himself the Gust of the Galaxy, stops arresting a guy and jumps in his little speeder to chase after Sonic because he wants to prove that he's faster than Sonic. Chris radios Sam and asks if Sonic is okay. Sam says sure, but Sam says today is the day he will defeat him. Chris says, yeah, that's probably not happening, and as he tries to close in on Sonic, Sonic just goes faster. Sam also runs out of gas and just in the middle of the street, and Chris and company follow Sonic into the desert. The sun starts to set, and they return to mansion to get help. Chuck and Tails work all night, and the next day try various methods to stop Sonic. First involves shooting Sonic with a bubble, which causes him to float around into the forest where he passes Knuckles. Knuckles punches the bubble, and Sonic falls into the river. He rushes out and gives Knuckles a fish as a thank you. Next returns to the others, and then they come up with another plan to trap Sonic. This time in a hamster wheel. It works, but as Sonic eventually breaks the wheel and then gets blasted off from an underwater geyser. The last plan involves Sonic racing Sam now calling himself the stranger from the desert. And fortunately, Sam botches that because he wants to be number one when the plan was to have Sonic go through a certain door and into some, sticky Mega Muck adjacent stuff. But Sam does, and Sonic continues to run. Now, while this is happening, Chuck notices that some weird electromagnetic waves are happening and Amy and Tails follow it to the farm from the earlier part of the episode, and E88 is rebuilt and acting like a robot bird. Amy tries to smack it again with her hammer, but E88 zaps her. Sonic rushes in and headbutts E88, knocking out the microchip and restoring him back to normal. Sonic runs into the hay pile again, and Amy jumps in after him. Sonic is okay, and Amy blows some hay out of his ear. The two laugh, and it looks like Sonic passes out from exhaustion. Eggman is also in the episode, basically him watching things, saying that, he admires Sonic for his determination and training, and says he will do so, but decides to eat lunch and take a nap. And that's it. That is the episode.
So what'd you think?
Me?
Yes.
It was okay. Spoiler alert, I gave it a 2 out of 7.
I really like this episode. This is my favorite episode of the 3. I'd give it more of a, I don't know. Well, I'd give it a 4 broken microchips out of 5. Neon?
So, yeah, I appreciate this episode, not because it's a great episode. It's really a filler episode. But what I appreciated about it is it doesn't try to be this is a hyper important episode, or, it's going to expand the story. Something's done. That's all. And on that level, I kind of have to respect it that it recognizes it's not an important episode and that you can skip it.
It understood its assignment. It knew what it was. It didn't try to be anything other than what it was.
Yeah. And on that level, I have to respect it. There were some fun little changes they did that, probably for the best.
What do you mean by changes? Like localizations?
So, yeah, at the start when the bird catches Amy, in the English dub, she describes that it's ruining her dress.
She calls
in the
Robotnik
Japanese-
fatty. I remember.
In the Japanese dub, she refers to the bird as a pervert.
Yeah,
Which
she
can
calls
only-
him Skebe.
Yeah.
Lewd.
Which has an implication towards what's being... Anyway, point is, interesting little change. I'm feeling we're going to go more to the detailed once I give the score, aren't I?
Okay.
But overall, I would give it a 3 out of 5. You could watch it or not. It's up to you. It's inconsequential. You got to respect the hustle.
I really think this is like one of the quintessential Sonic X episodes, but okay. Interesting. I mean, I have my reasons. Does anybody have any other notes besides them you not really liking it, finding it dull?
It does come off in many ways. It feels a little bit like a Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog episode. I know I see that sometime that there is when Sonic gets a little slapsticky. Because this feels like a little bit of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. It feels a little bit of like Tom and Jerry or Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, a little Looney Tunes in premise.
Okay.
Which
oh, yeah,
I
can
feel
see
like
yeah.
that hits better with Japanese audiences. I mean, obviously Looney Tunes are Looney Tunes. There's a reason they've lasted this long. But, yeah, so... I mean, again, it's fine. I mean... again, like Neon says, it knows what it is. This isn't some deep lore reveal. This is just what happens when Sonic has to run for a long, long ass time. And, you get a whole little, you get the whole Sonic is the wind, which just kind of made me roll my eyes just because I feel like that's just become such a cringe comment I see online nowadays. That's just me. But again, it's kind of funny. I did actually watch these episodes. I actually did notice something for the first time. Is the further we get along in the season, the higher the number of the robots goes up. And when I realized that, this is E88, we're getting closer to Sonic Adventure because You had E100, which was Zero, which was the robot that chased Amy. You obviously had E101 Beta, and of course E102 Gamma. So you can kind of track, if you just put on a random season 1 episode, you could figure out where you are in the season by the number of the robot, which I thought was kind of neat, because it shows that Eggman's slowly working up to his good robot.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I never thought about that. That is true. They are going up in number. That's an interesting little note. I didn't even notice. I guess if nobody has anything else, I could gush a bit about this episode, why I like it so
Go
much.
for it.
All right.
No, well, because obviously, yeah, we talked about the Amy changes and everything. Is anybody here a tech person? Does anybody know what that chip is in Sonic's ear?
Are you about to tell me it's some kind of television chip?
No, I mean, I looked this up because the words VID and FID are on it. And when it's activated, the FID part like has like this glow, like it glows, like it shines. And I mean, I'm guessing this stands for, and I'm guessing the VID is like, it stands for vendor ID, because that's like a widely known term in electronics. Think like, like USB, like Universal Serial Bus. And VID is like, I'm guessing it's either federated ID or more likely firmware ID. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm really fascinated by Eggman and like Tails' tech, like, because Tails often describes this, or at least in IDW, he describes Eggman's tech as being really weird. Now I'm not sure like what kind of tech that Eggman's using here, but if we're gonna compare it to the real world, this sort of tech is like very basic. But I don't know. At least give your casual viewers something to latch onto. Because if you have a firmware ID, that means it's updating from somewhere to control a robot. Because I don't think this chip comes back in any of the other iterations of Sonic. But I find it interesting that they included this detail. I'm not sure why, but another reason why I like this episode is the philosophy of like, what if Sonic decided he didn't want to stop running? Like, let's just say he just woke up one day and he just decided, I just want to keep running. Because as we see in the episode, he even falls asleep while running. Because he's sort of like, he has this sort of demigod like character, to where he has this ability to do something to where he kind of defies the physics of like a normal, I guess, lack of a better word, a mammal. I don't know. I mean, I think also what would have been interesting is if we didn't know why Sonic was running, we didn't see the chip go into his ear. I feel like that could have made it more of like a mystery, if we wanted to make the character a bit more mysterious. But that being said, I do think the episode is interesting in terms of a philosophical argument of why does Sonic run? Why is he always running? What is his need for running? Right? So, I don't know. My other note here is, in the dub, Sam Speed is a cop? I mean, like, he pulls over some guy with a mohawk and he acts like a cop. I understand that, like,
he's always been a cop.
Has he always been a cop? He's like a super
Like,
cop?
that was the whole thing. In episode 1, they called like the high speed pursuit unit. So he's kind of, highway patrol, traffic, super traffic cop.
Okay. All right. Because he's a really weird fucking cop if he is. Like, what kind of cop has a red fucking car? Whatever. Yeah, I guess that's all I really have in this episode. I think it's rather interesting that this is the iteration we get of him being opposed to something like I guess Sad-Am, to where he's just always really fast, because they never really explain why he has this speed or why it's being used. I mean, I'm not saying that this episode explains it either, but it kind of gives you this idea of like who the character is and like when he's sort of challenged or like how do we understand him as an entity, right?
Well,
So
Yeah.
it's something I think I kind of chalk down to a little bit of the U.S. SOA versus SOJ's interpretation, and just kind of maybe how Western and Eastern and just how people view and want their stories. Um, you know, a lot of the Western interpretations of Sonic has Sonic as a character. You see his thinking, you see his process, you kind of understand things about him. Like look in the Sonic movies, the whole thing of like episode 1 was like, Sonic had this power and they wanted, people wanted it. Now that hasn't really been really they used the quills for weapons in the Knuckles show, so they've talked a little bit about, and well, yeah, they used Shadow's quills for, so again, you have this power and it makes them special. It makes them do the fun stuff. Where you see a lot of the stuff like in Sonic X and some of like the Koro mangas that are coming out right now, and just some of like the Sonic Channel stuff where it's not so much Sonic. If there's a story with Sonic, he's just there. He just is, which I think some people really like, and I get why they like it. It's kind of Sonic is the win. Sonic is a part of. He's not so much a character. He's a spirit. He's just a part of nature, and it's not so much it's his story. It's more of like he's just there, and someone else is like the actual person driving the story. Now that sometimes can work in video games, because usually video games are a just kind of a one and done. There's a beginning and an end to the adventure, and we obviously know Sonic's going to move on to the next adventure. But again, you think of like SA2. There was no intention to bring Shadow back. He was supposed to be one and done, but then everyone loved him, and then they brought him back, and yada yada. So I think that's just kind of what it breaks down to, is like, for the most part, Sonic is just Sonic. You know, they never really talk about why he's so fast, why you know, he's never really been given an origin out of
right.
SOJ, other than he's just a guy who travels the world and, flew his plane around and then kind of, bumped into Eggman on South Island in Sonic 1. Maybe did they clash before that, where he was before that? No one knows. And, for some people they don't want to know. That it doesn't, it doesn't really move anything forward. It's just like, oh, this is what Sonic was doing before he met everybody. He's probably, a lot of what he's still doing now. That's at least what I think.
Right,
I could be
right,
wrong.
right. Okay.
For me,
yeah, go on, Neon.
what I would say is, for me, with this episode, it's interesting that we get some sort of explanation of Sonic's powers. We haven't reached Shadow yet, because we've never really been given any sort of official explanation. It's just like, as you said, he just runs. He's just there. So I appreciate we have some idea of his limits and some idea of his capabilities, even if it's just he gets the equivalent of a cockroach in the ear.
Yeah. I don't know. Overall, that's my best, the worst, or do Red Letter Media. How about yourself, Neon? Which one's the best of the best? I don't know, best of the worst, best of the best. I'm not sure what your take is.
One of the things I'll say before I say, I
Yes.
watched one of the early video I did with you guys. I had said that this was peak Son Amy. Watching this now, I was wrong.
Really?
And I'm not going to say, yeah, I thought this was peak Son Amy. No, you guys were probably right. The last episode 8 with, no, forgot which episode it was. We're
Amy's
at the
Beach.
beach. That's probably the peak one. The only other one is when Sonic forgets the date, but No, I was wrong. I thought this was more Son Amy. It's not.
I think what
A
it
little
is
bit of
is
Son Amy.
what?
I'd say there's a little bit of Son Amy going on.
I think I understand where you're coming from though, Neon. Because I mean, there's the imagery of like Sonic and Amy both in the haystack together, kind of looking intimate. I think that's what people remember in terms of this episode. That makes it a quote unquote Son Amy moment. So I think that's probably fair to say that this is probably one of the better ones, even though it's very short lived. It's sort of like how I meet a lot of people online who are big Shed Amy fans, where like Shadow and Amy don't have much interaction at all. They only have that one interaction in like the arc and the video game Sonic Adventure 2, and that's it. But yet people love pairing them together, even though it's a very very minuscule like small scene. So
It's small but powerful because it's basically
yeah, small but powerful. Yes.
yeah, because it's Amy's monologue about helping people and all that basically ultimately kicks his memory in back into overdrive. Well, not overdrive, but he starts. He remembers Maria's promise. It wasn't for revenge. It was to make the people happy, to let them pursue their dreams. And then it kind of, so I was like, aha, I get it. It's like I have to go stop the professor. And it's a powerful moment. That's I think a lot of Shad Amy fans latch on to that. Also, again, people love the the emo brooding guy with the perky girl or perky one. It's a common character trope.
Right. It's pretty opposites attract, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts before we go on to my major questions I had for the show in general?
Nah, I'm good. Lay us on us.
I guess I'll say, because you asked what the best and the worst. I'll say episode 24 best, episode 22 mid, episode 23.
Really? Okay. So you've kind of like come full circle on this episode, would you say? Neon.
I mean, I rated it 3 out of 5, and the others were 2 out of 5.
Wow. Okay.
So.
Yeah, no, my big questions for this show in general, I had a few. When I was watching episode 22, the Chow Garden one, this sort of made me question, without doing research, what is the design principle when it comes to the Sonic the Hedgehog? I mean, based on memory, what can you remember?
Like, define design. Like, we're talking about characters, or like what's like.
So, like, when they make a show, when they make a Sonic show, what has to come first? Like, what do they say? Well, Sonic needs to be blah.
Good question.
So, based on like what you've seen, and I'm not saying you need to do all this research. You need to ask Google AI or one of these sort of things. You can if you want to. I don't care. I'm just wondering, like, based on like your understanding of like what you've seen of this character, what does Sega consider when they make this?
Well, you got to put yourself in Sega's shoes back in the early 2000s. And that's kind of, it's an interesting time because, again, they had just gotten out of the console market. They were, Sonic Heroes was basically coming out / just have, been released. Actually, I think it came out in December. I think I remember seeing something like that. So, yeah. So, I guess, at the time, this is kind of what they, kind of this kind of, all I can say is, like, at the time, because obviously things have changed over time. Some of it, more one way and another, and then kind of balanced each other out, and just kind of the portrayal of Sonic. But I do think for the most part that I think at the end of the day, there's, you know, there. This is something I've been thinking about, and I'm sorry if I'm just stopping mid thought because my
It's
thoughts
fine.
process of getting clearer is that this was Japan's first, well, outside the OVA, really first attempt at a Sonic TV show. U.S. had 3 at this time, and you know they were trying to get, I think, trying to push a more of a local, and by local I mean national market of Japan, because obviously by this time SA2 had been released on the GameCube, so you had a broader audience now playing the game who are now getting interested in Sonic. So my guess is that at the time they were trying to think of like what character beats and character tropes do well on our side of the Pacific that might bring in new fans. Like I was thinking about this, like Sonic's in many ways is very shonen. He's a very shonen static character. He doesn't really grow, he doesn't really evolve. He's just kind of he's very, flat. I don't want to say flatline as in just flat, but there's not a lot of up and down. He's very consistent, which is kind of much like some comic book shonen heroes people would think of, like Goku and Luffy from Dragon Ball and One Piece. I'd say he's probably a little bit more like Luffy because Goku does grow through the arc of Dragon Ball, especially if you start, in Dragon Ball through Z. He grows and he learns stuff, but even though he does stay fairly consistent, Sonic, it doesn't really feel like he learns things. He's just there. He says a phrase and he runs, which again, some people love, like a little bit more meat to the bones. But again, that's just a subjective, thought.
Okay.
I
Neon.
what I think they're trying to get, what they need at one is quintessential Sonic is I think from what Sega Japan wants is they want a character that they can advertise everywhere. I know during development they designed Sonic X fully as a Japan first, outside everywhere secondary. Although I do have a feeling that there were some elements that realized this is going to do well globally. What I think they were trying to do is, how do we take this character and make them work towards what we know works in Japan, what we know works in country. Whether or not that succeeded, I would say no, especially given that the Meterex saga did not air in Japan, not originally, not until the movie. I don't know if it was that there was too many cooks in the kitchen and they fumbled that, or if there was something else. It's hard to say. But I would say it's, how do we take this character and really get them to work with what we know works in our region domestically.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of looking at it from a Japan stance and what they're trying to go for, that makes a lot of sense. For me, I was looking more at the Sega Sammy reports from this or earlier last year to see kind of like if that philosophy still held up, and I would say it does. Because like the basic Sega Sammy reports for the Sonic character, right? It's from what I understand, and I'm paraphrasing here. Sonic is supposed to be a global transmedia flagship IP, right? It's
Right.
supposed to be, it's positioned for longevity and like licensing growth. It's supposed to be global and multi-platform, and I guess
The worldwide icon.
yeah, be a worldwide icon, and have global appeal over regional or like age specific, have like an age specific, and there's no real age to it. It's for everyone, right? And it's supposed to have this long longevity and like a brand stability, business talk, right? I mean, I was looking through all
Right.
this, and I don't think it was generally created in mind, like with saying that it needs to be like a story, an actual story, or have some sort of
Oh,
story.
absolutely. I don't think, again, I think that's one of the reasons you see so much of the division between SOJ and SOA in the 90s is that they weren't really thinking about lore and games. They just wanted to put out a game and see if it made money. They weren't thinking like this is going to be some 30-decade franchise that just has become such a force. And I also think it's interesting when you think about it, because a lot of, as I've said multiple times at nauseum at this point, is that when this show came out, the franchise was only 12, 11 years old at the time. Where now we're talking about it in 2026, which is the 35th anniversary. So like how they view it now is going to be very much different than when they viewed it back then. Now, like back then, obviously, I think their main focus was kids. But now again, we are at 35 years. It's multiple generations now. Kids are taking their kids to the Sonic movies. I mean, maybe even some, if you had some older people playing the Genesis in the 90s, maybe they're taking their grandkids to the Sonic stuff. Again, I go back to when I went to the Sonic Symphony and just seeing multiple generations of people there. So,
Right, because it sounds like they're banking a lot on nostalgia now. They're banking on
oh,
this
absolutely.
nostalgia that
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is what I'm getting from it. I mean, they're trying to derive like what I could break down into like a brand success, like a kind of a commercial reach, a creative success, some sort of nostalgia, and giving us some sort of audience satisfaction, right? And this sort of makes me ask the question, like, let's take this at face value. Let's say there's a trucker in the United States, right? Let's call him Bob the trucker, right? And
Billy Bob.
yeah, and he's going to buy a Sonic product. But wait, maybe he's not going to buy a Sonic product because, that's just kid shit, right? That's kid stuff, right? But let's pretend, for the sake of argument or sake of conversation, he does buy it. There's probably only 3 reasons why he would buy a said Sonic product. One, he's buying it for his grandkids, or like because his children or children that he knows, like this product, and or they like this character. Or 2, they have some sort of nostalgia for it because they played it when they were younger, or they know one of the shows or one of the movies. Or 3, they're starting a white supremacist movement, and that they need to they need a face of the movement, and so that was like the perfect image, kind of like the Pepe the Frog sort of thing, right? These are the only 3 reasons I could think of about why you would buy. I mean, not specifically white supremacy, but I'm just saying. I'm giving you an example.
You joke about that, but my brother was recently told not to wear his airsoft patches because someone said that the Sonic the Hedgehog patch was a biker gang patch.
What? Okay.
I don't know
all right.
any biker gang that uses Sonic, but
Okay, all right. Well, you heard it here, folks.
Mobius's Angels.
There you go. All right. So maybe I'm not so wrong in this idea. I thought I was being like a little,
Well, I mean,
facetious, but maybe I'm not wrong.
If you're brave enough to venture into like Sonic Twitter or anywhere, some of the dark reports of the internet, you see people will always try to co-op images for whatever ideology they believe in, even if you look at it and say, this makes no sense at all, like rationally.
Right, right, right. Okay.
No.
Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to get to with this whole statement here is that um, I don't think the character is created just with kids in mind. I mean, sure, that's their primary goal. Because some people always come up to me, they say Sonic is a kid's thing. You know, you shouldn't be, as a 38-year-old man, you should be doing other things. And yeah, and rightfully so. I should be doing other things in my life. But their
That
outreach
bastard
isn't.
T-Rat sucked us in.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's obviously because you could argue that like because the primary target for this character is children, right? It's like boy, I forgot what the actual demographic is. It's like boys 5 to 12 or something, and then the secondary demographic they're looking for is like boys like 18 to 45 or something, like some huge gap, right? And then the other one is like women 18 to 30 or something. I forgot what it was. I saw the numbers a couple of months ago, but all I'm saying here is that when they create this character, they're not just I mean today anyway. Maybe not when they made the Sonic X thing. They probably, when they made the Sonic X thing, the thing with the Sonic X thing is that they were trying to go for a more okay, I'm going to argue and say that they were still using this methodology. So it's not exactly just for kids, even though that's their entry point, because that's a safe entry point. Which kind of brings me into my second big question here. So, I mean, we often say that the Sonic X thing has a certain Sonic characteristic, right? Because there's many different types of characteristics for the character. You have this one, you have the movie, you have, Sad-Am. Heck, maybe you could argue that Adventures of and Sad-Am are the same one, but I sort of liken this characterization of Sonic X to like, is everybody familiar with? I mean, hopefully you are, Neon, so we don't sound like I'm talking out my ass here, but the baseball player Shohei Ohtani, right?
No.
You don't? Okay, interesting. That's interesting. Do you follow baseball? Do you watch any sports or anything? Because I don't either.
No. The most would be football, and even then, that's more of just, oh, hey, that's a funny meme.
Interesting. Okay, because I know, what is it? Malzil is well familiar with Ohtani. Yes?
I am.
Okay.
I'm well versed in many forms of sports ball.
Okay, but baseball is not your number one sport, right? It's football.
Not my
yeah?
number one. It's like 2 or 3, but yeah.
Okay. Because if you lived in Japan, you know the name Shohei Ohtani. It's like you see him everywhere. It's like there's a bunch of other baseball stars. There's like another famous one that was like in the early 2000s.
Ichiro was the big
Suzuki.
one. He was like the first. Yeah, he was the first big one in the States.
Yeah, and here's the thing about was it Shohei Ohtani and heck even Ichiro Izuki. They're from Japan, but they got traded, or I think you call it traded. Correct me if I'm wrong in this terminology, but he got traded to the U.S. For Ohtani, it was the L.A. Dodgers, and the thing is about the way the Japanese people play baseball is much different than the way Americans play baseball. And
it's very 1,000% correct.
They're a lot more, I guess you would say, rigid and strict, in Japan about how they play baseball and like the rules that they follow and the teamwork and the camaraderie is different. Whereas like if I take somebody like a famous baseball player like Juan Soto, right? I forgot what team he's on. Help me out here. Do you remember?
Well,
No?
let me throw an example for you that some people might get or might get.
Okay.
Way back, kind of my high school days, you had a lot of whether it was like Mark McGwire versus Sammy Sosa for like the home run record, or Barry Bonds breaking the home run record. Those are all very individualistic achievements, which is very American because we're very individualistic. So much to certainly to a point of detriment, I would say at times. Whereas if you go to Japan, hitting a home run in America, that's everyone goes crazy. I mean, people still celebrate it, but Japanese fans prefer to see like a triple play, or a double, oh God, what's the term when you get two people out? When they get to see the team do something collectively really cool.
Okay.
Right.
Like a triple play or a double play. Because again, more collective, this is a team. You're rooting for the team, not so much the individual. Now, I could be off base on that, but I think that's kind of what you're getting at, Radrey.
Yeah, well, kind of yes and no. Not it is based upon more the team. You're right in terms of that regard. But where I was going with this is that when people you have somebody from a foreign country joining an American baseball team, usually they're sort of like an American player like Juan Soto. I'm gonna have to Google. I can't remember what team he's on. Because I'm really not a sports person. I don't watch sports. I like things that are non-competitive, mind you. He's kind of known as, this kind of average, or not, I shouldn't say average, kind of typical, like American baseball player. He's kind of full of themselves. They have a lot of bravado. They're very outspoken. They're very loud, and, they make a lot of money.
He's also from the Dominican Republic. He plays for the Mets.
Right. I think even they say that a lot of American baseball players aren't even from America anymore. So they're all from South
it's
America.
very much a Central America, Caribbean, because you can play baseball year round down there.
Right. So, I mean, usually that's kind of the norm, right, for American baseball, is just that you have this sort of loud kind of, heck, maybe even go as far to say they're kind of like divas in a way. So to the point where they're, what some people call a prima donna, where, they have all this bravado, they have all this, confidence in themselves. Whereas like when Ohtani plays baseball, he plays baseball where he, opposed to like Juan Soto, he doesn't give interviews. If he does, it's through an interpreter. And he doesn't really speak English that much. And when he does speak English, it's a lot like Sonic X Sonic. He just says these random quotes like, "Hey guys," or stuff like that, right? Like, "No problem."
It's like a soundboard.
Yeah, it's like a soundboard, exactly. Like the basic understanding of like what is American English. What did you say?
Like, he says like, "Thank you."
Yeah,
or,
thank you or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
But in my regards, because here I'm getting to the end of this, why I'm bringing up Ohtani Shohei in terms of Sonic X's Sonic is the reason why I would say he's a massive success in the States, but despite Neon never hearing anything about him, which is interesting. Actually, let me ask you before I finish this thought, Neon. What baseball stars do you know of, like offhand?
I don't watch sports.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. I don't either. I'm just saying, like, let's say there's a gun to your head.
Which ones do you know through cultural osmosis?
Yes.
Pre-World War II.
So which would be?
That would be Jackie Robinson and Babe Ruth. That's literally all I know.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I know those names. Actually, I don't know Jackie Robinson, so you got one up on me. I know the name. I've heard it before, but if you held a gun to my head in this regard, yeah, I would say, who's that again? But I do know Babe Ruth because, of course, I love that movie Sandlot, and that I watched that movie religiously. But anyway, that's besides the point. You have this Japanese baseball player who, uses an interpreter. He doesn't give interviews. He's very stoic. He doesn't have a lot of bravado. He's very he doesn't really always express himself like a typical American baseball player would. But the reason why he's well respected, the reason why people like him, is because he gets results. He gets things done. He's best known for having a good track record in terms of being both a great pitcher and, hitting lots of homers, home runs. But the thing is that when you compare this to Sonic X, right? You have Ohtani, who's this massive success both in Japan and I guess in America for some people. The thing is that baseball is more watched in terms of the results that it gets at the end. I'm not saying that like you get high after watching, just looking at the score. Sure, it's about the game. That's what sports is.
From what I understand, baseball is seen as the smart man sport. Football is seen as the Luddite sport because it deals more with it.
But anyway, you're gonna get Melzilla angry at you for that comment, but okay.
I'm gonna rise above it.
Okay.
And just say, I'm gonna take the high ground.
Wow. Okay. I'm indifferent to sports in general. I just don't like competitive sports. But my understanding of competitive sports, what makes it entertaining, what makes it fun to watch, why people enjoy it, is because you're there watching the game and you're watching the results happen. You're watching it come to a close, right? But when it comes to baseball, it's all about the results. But when you have the same sort of character for Sonic X, the point is, the reason why I think this doesn't work with Sonic X's characterization, or why it doesn't work in a narrative, is you don't watch a show just to finish it. You watch a show because you want to be entertained for the moment. You don't want to say, wow, that episode was only 40 minutes. Or it was only 10 minutes. I'm so glad it was only 10 minutes, right? Do you know what I mean? I feel like this is why this doesn't work. This is why Sonic X is Sonic, or at least the Japanese version of Sonic, or at least the purported, what Yuji Naka calls as the definitive version of Sonic the Hedgehog, just doesn't work as a narrative. I guess that's my 2 cents for today. Or not 2 cents. That's my statement of the day. Do you agree? Yes or no? Thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I'd agree for the most part. I mean, yeah.
So, Neon, as somebody who's not a sports person, do you understand this analogy? Do you see it?
I think you're trying to say is Sonic's more of not really.
It's more of a case of Japanese Sonic. The end all be all is the result. Is he getting things done? Is he saving the day? Yes. Whereas, the more American it's a bit more of the journey. It's the bravado. It's the do it to it.
Okay.
It's the hasta la vista mista.
Yes.
A little bit of the attitude. It's
yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it with style. I'm gonna do it with a flash because I'm the fastest thing alive. A little bit, the ego.
I think with coming off of, for me, from a character's perspective, let me adjust my okay, what's going on with my microphone? From a character perspective, I'm okay with Sonic being, not as braggadocious or as cool, epic, but we need something of a story. You can't just slot Sonic into a story and just go, and there's Sonic. I kind of want more substance. What's going on here? Why is he present? What's he doing? You can't, yes, he'll eventually win, and that's fine. That's good. But I kind of want to see that journey. I want to see him actually doing something. How does this affect the overall narrative? This is kind of the problem I have with some of the more recent Digimon, where yes, some episodes are just self-contained, but there was still this element of an ongoing story. Whereas with later shows, it's just each episode its own thing and its own thing, and maybe we'll have something that continues the overall arc, and eventually the story will end. But you need that story that continues, and the characters growing, and the characters doing things and feeling like they're living people and not just there to just randomly appear.
You need more serialized than episodic. Now, I'm going to bring in something recent that I think kind of is topical to this whole discussion. IDW Comics, which does the Sonic comics, also has the license to do Godzilla comics. Now, last year they did a little mini series called Godzilla's Masterpiece Theater, which had Godzilla fight Jay Gatsby from The Great Gatsby teaming up with Sherlock Holmes, and then Dracula was there, and a bunch of other famous people from fiction.
Right.
Well, they just announced they're doing another Masterpiece one shot, but it's basically, I forget with the exact terms, but it's let me look it up, because you'll kind of understand what I'm saying once I say it. Hold on, let me pull it up. It's when Romeo met Juliet and Godzilla. So it's basically, what if you have the story of Romeo and Juliet, but Godzilla's there too?
Right.
And it's Godzilla's he has a character, but at the end of the day, he's also just a giant kaiju. He's doing his thing, And so it'd be interesting to say, like, because if you know the story of Romeo and Juliet, it's like, oh yeah, this is one of the famous, stories of Shakespeare's plays. It's a tragedy. But what happens when you take that tragedy, which everyone's read if you've gone through, usually if you've gone through the U.S. education system, you've probably read Romeo and Juliet at one point in your high school career.
Right.
Or, college if you're English major. But, when you let's throw Godzilla in there and see what happens. Does it change the story? Now, is this the catalyst? Is Godzilla attacking Verona the catalyst for these two actually surviving this tragedy? Or does it just set up, maybe instead of them stabbing and drinking poison, they just get stepped on? It kind of changes how things can possibly operate. With Sonic, he's much more interesting as, okay, let's, as like, we'd rather see Sonic be in the story, an active or participant of, instead of this is Romeo and Juliet and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy.
Was bringing up IDW. Back when IDW had the Transformers IP, they did a crossover between My Little Pony and Transformers. And I was
Ian
thinking,
Flynn wrote for that.
Yeah, and I was thinking, that's going to be a great storyline. We're going to have the French, we're going to have the elements of harmony having to somehow work with the complex lore of Cybertron. When you actually watch it, it isn't anything. It's all a bunch of small...
It's anthology stories.
Yeah, and it's like you start with Queen Chrysalis on Megatron as a tank laying siege. That doesn't go anywhere. That they don't do anything. That's
Next
not...
thing you know, it's Starscream and Fluttershy or whatever that pony having a race. It's all,
It's like, I appreciate it's a crossover, but that's not what I'm here for.
Now, I'm going to pull the Godzilla card and suggest what Marvel did last year was the best of both worlds. They did 5 one-shots of Godzilla versus the Fantastic Four, Godzilla versus the Hulk, Godzilla versus Spider-Man, X-Men, and the New Avengers and Thor. And then they did a Godzilla Destroys the Universe miniseries. So you had these individual one-shots, which some were really, really cool, and some okay. And then you had this actual one story of Godzilla laying waste and, everyone and their mom trying to stop him, and then, finding a way to stop him, only to set up the sequel, which then basically puts everything on a, they're about to do the sequel in about a month. So, you're getting that. You're getting the isolated stories, the anthology, and you're getting the serialized narrative.
Right. I'll say with Sonic, there's a reason, like with 06, Sonic's story, he's just kind of there. The shadow stuff is more impressive. Sonic Heroes, Sonic's there, but it's Team Dark that's more impressive. It's
I see what you're getting at. Go on.
Yeah, it's for Sonic. You can't. I think part of the flop with Sonic is he's kind of, they just put him in and expect the story
To move
to
on its
somehow
own.
work.
Yeah.
Right. But it's, I hate to bring up the wind, but it's just Sonic's in the wind and not interacting. He's just, even Mad Max Rockintansky, who by all accounts is the wind, he still does something with the story and we see some movement. I don't see Sonic doing any. If Sonic was in Fury Road, it's gonna have the same effect, but we're not gonna have that character elements of Sonic. He might say something worldwide, but it's not going to, he's going to affect the world, but the world isn't going to affect him, or it's not going to really do anything. It's, why are we here? And it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I mean, in terms of like a narrative sense, in terms of like what makes like an overarching story, it doesn't really feel that satisfying in terms of like an actual story, like opposed to something like off the top of my head, the first thing that comes to my mind is like Oddworld, where you have like a video game character where his whole
I throw a shameless plug.
What?
I was gonna say, if Sonic is Max from Fury Road, does this make Sally Furiosa?
Sure.
Let's call Ian Flynn and tell him to do.
Sega, we got it right here. How to bring Sally back, Furiosa style. Sorry,
Right, but what I was getting at is that, like opposed to like Mario or Sonic, I mean, opposed to like the character of Abe from Oddworld, you have this character that has sort of a directive. They have like something they're trying to do. He's trying to save all of his other fellow Mudokons from being, slaughtered. That's his that's his story, right? You kind of resonate with it. You understand it. You want to see him complete the goal. Whereas with Sonic, I'm not sure what his goal is, And it's just sort of like when you have something that's so aimless, it kind of becomes one of these things where it's like, I just put money in this machine, and where did it go? It's in there somewhere. Why did I put money in this thing? I don't remember.
Sonic's goal kind of finds him if you think about it. Like, just to kind of, since we're kind of in that time zone of, Sonic, timeline. Like if we think back to Sonic Adventure, he's, hopping around Station Square. He sees the cops, says, "Oh, what's going on?" And then he, fights chaos, and it's like, okay, it's not so much, "Oh, what's up with that weird water thing I did?" And later, "Oh, there's Tails crashing. I gotta go see if he's okay." And then, his objective almost comes to him because it's like, "Oh, hey, I'm doing okay. I'm building something at my shop in the Mystic Ruins. Let's go check it out." And you go check it out, and then it's like, "Oh, here's Eggman with, here's my, evil plan." And it's like, okay, now our goal has found us. It's very aimless. He's just kind of.
I guess what I'm just trying to get at here is that I just don't feel satisfied. It's like I ate an entire meal, and it's like, man, I'm still fucking hungry, man. I want to be satisfied here. Anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with a lot of Sonic stories.
They work fine in games, which are meant to be, again, one and done stories, but they're not so great in serialized narratives, whether it be television, comics, etc. movies. Well, movies are kind of a blend of the two in a way, but
Yeah.
Right. Like I was watching the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie.
Yeah.
A game that's a movie that's based on the game, right? That movie is just awful. And I say this as like a Five Nights at Freddy's fan who loves the series. It's like I like you work, Scott Cawthon, but what are you doing, man? This movie makes no sense. I mean, like, it's sure you can add a sort of a mystery and a mystique to it, right? By, putting in all these really vague hints. But it's just sort of like when you add so much mystery, it just gives people headaches after a certain point. So I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody here watches those movies or watched the recent
I
one.
I
Oh
saw the
man, that
sequel.
was yeah.
I saw the sequel. My immediate thought is this should have just aired on Lifetime.
It was
It
bad.
it it, it should have been a straight to TV movie. I would have been okay watching this on Lifetime after The Golden Girls.
Yeah, I mean yeah, in terms of like a serviceable like average movie, it's fine. But in terms of like actually hitting plot points or beats or I mean that's a whole other discussion, but yeah, video games, the movies, it's a hard transition. I guess this kind of goes into my third question that I had here. What do you guys think about the localization of this show? Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, for kids, it's very much a a product of its time. Again, it was at a time where dubbing was, it was just very localized dubs. It's, you see a lot of today where the script is, they try to, I mean, sometimes they have just to fix some localism, Japan's the Japanese language has some unique things to it that sometimes just don't translate to the US English. So sometimes they have to tweak things here and there, but they try to keep the scripts as authentic as they can. Like, you know, like if you go back to Breaking Bad, old, Gail Bedecker is, he's making crystal meth at like 97.5, but or like 98.2 or whatever it was, but Walter White and Jesse are making it like 98.5. They're just, it's that much pure. And as the time has gone on, our US dubs are becoming more pure, more in line with the actual script. Whereas in that early 2000s, especially kind of into the late 90s, where it was not so much, you wanted to get the gist of what was going on, but if you had to make some leeways, and obviously they took a lot of leeways with this because it was made for a younger audience than it was initially. Excuse me, hiccups.
Hmm.
In Japan, it was obviously written for a preteen teen audience. There's some swears, there's some suggestive content here and there, even if it's
Right.
all pretty tame. For kids, basically dubbed this down to an 8 to 10-year-old, 10 and under, basically. Again, it's the turning, champagne into, freshly squeezed juice.
Right, right.
For me with the dub, watching the different shows between Sonic X, Digimon, like the 4 different seasons of Digimon I've gone through, BattleTech, how different shows deal with Saturday morning cartoons. To me, with 4 kids, I feel they got relatively easy with Sonic X because the source material with some line changes, for the most part, you don't have to edit too much. There are some localization, like the geishas and some wordplay, but compared to what other shows had to deal with, it's pretty it's pretty easy. Now, I will admit Digimon is not the best example because they actually were kind of consistent between the two, but that was an older dub. But then you get something like was another show. No, G.I. Joe Sigma 6 doesn't count because 4Kids did that dub. Something like Kirby, where some of the changes are a bit unusual. Like King Dedede's vehicle went from camouflage to they just used his colors. Why did they change that? Someone higher up thought it had to be changed because it was too militant. Who knows? Or in the case of One Piece, where under no reason 4Kids should have gotten that show, just for how length aside, just how, it's a kids anime, don't get me wrong, but it's a different expectation towards what 4Kids wanted. With what 4Kids had with Sonic X, I think they're doing a decent enough job. It could have been a lot better, but going off of the source material, I think it's more of there's only so much you can do to fix a cake. And
Yeah.
the cake they got was good, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah. True.
It's,
My overall opinion about the localization of the show is it's fine. It's serviceable. I mean, some parts are like, that's odd, but I guess that's all anime. I mean,
Well, it's also interesting, for a long time, the most successful animes are usually built on serialized manga, and very few anime that's not based off of manga that is kind of original. They're usually, for the most part, unless they're a Gundam, they're usually one and done. I mean, if you think about it, Sonic, ran for about a year, 2 26 episode seasons. Was it 50 episodes usually in a year, give or take? It ran for 1 year and then it went off the air. And they had that season 3. They aired it in the US because it was making money over there, but they didn't air it in Japan until 2020. So it was a one and done, thanks, we'll see you around. So they did not have staying power.
I mean, I guess like this show often does what what a lot of other shows do. Like there's a scene in like was it episode 23 where Nelson Thorndike goes in to buy that big jewel, right?
Yeah, he says it's my wife's birthday.
Right. But like the mannerisms of the staff are very, that's the mannerisms of a Japanese person. When they talk to Nelson about when it comes to buying a diamond, they say things like "dozo kudasaimasu," right? That sort of thing. Like they say those sort of things because that's what you say when you're happy for a customer to come into your store or your shop, right? But then they translate that Japanese part that I just said, this thing like, "Thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. It's very nice to have you, Mr. Nelson." That sort of thing, where they kind of like over exaggerate it, and it kind of like gives it its own sort of style in a way, like it just makes it sort of feel quote unquote anime. Do you know what I mean? Because
they're trying to match the lip flaps.
Yeah, nobody really talks like that in the U.S. I mean, they do, but like you could just say, "Oh, that's just them. That's just their character," right? But anyway, that's the only thing I got out of this. It's like it's Sonic, but anime, I guess this kind of latches into my last question here. Because I noticed one thing with Japanese storytelling. I feel like I want to say it's more Japanese storytelling where you have like a lot of these kind of macro mini plots, these stories where you have these stories like let's talk about Cheese's obsession with gold, or I don't know, something really random where it's like, oh, Sonic is going to school and he hates it. Or Chris is going to school and he has bullies, but then he defeats the bullies or something. Something really insequential, like the sort of like episodic, Simpsons sort of stuff, right? But even like more, you know, intricate than those plots, I'd argue, right? Opposed to like, okay, so going through this is like macro mini plot, whereas you have micro arc plot type storytelling, right? Where
Okay.
normally I feel like today you kind of need to keep. I feel like, well, especially like with Netflix movies nowadays, they keep on pushing that narrative. Like, this is what it's about. This is what it's about. I don't know how many Netflix shows you've watched, but I'm noticing a trend like with Netflix shows. A lot of them are where they keep pushing you what the narrative's about, and then they keep making the images on the screen so big. Like it's like there's two people on the screen talking for like hours on end. Because I get it. Somebody who's watching this might be watching it on their phone. So it's like, who wants to watch Lawrence of Arabia, this huge, like, wide shot of a movie, right? That's like on your tiny phone, right? So I don't know. The biggest thing here is that when I compare this show to like something like Pokemon, right, where it's like Pokemon is you have Ash Ketchum who's trying to become a Pokemon master, and it's kind of set up at the beginning. But here I feel like this is where the mini plot or the macro mini plot really works, right? Because you have this character that has like he has to go up against such a huge dream, and completing that sort of dream is pretty difficult. So you kind of have to really start small with these kind of mini plot stories, these kind of tiny.
Episodic,
What's that?
episodic. Like
Yeah, these tiny
obviously, like
episodic stories that go nowhere, but like that kind of have some sort of smaller meaning, right?
yeah.
That don't really add to anything. Whereas I feel like these Sonic stories, they don't really. I mean, I understand that the main thrust of the story is that they want to go home, but there's no real need for them to go home. Sure, they find the Chaos Emeralds here and there, and sure, they make some friends here and there, but at the same time, it's like I don't feel any pressing need to go anywhere or any pressing need to like love some of these characters. Maybe I should love the baseball episode. I should love that one guy who's in the baseball episode who I don't remember, right?
That
So,
one guy, like the groundskeeper.
yeah, the groundskeeper, right? I don't know. I mean, it's just, to me, the mini plot here just doesn't work. They need more of a macro plot,
Well,
but
see,
I
here
feel like that's
it's
not
something.
Japanese storytelling. Continue, Melzo, please.
Well, not to jump too ahead of ourselves. Like ultimately, like the way season 2 ends is, obviously the show's about like basically they find out that obviously Sonic and company come from a different dimension than they're in, and they find out unless they go back, there's going to be some catastrophic shenanigans. Even they end season 3. When they send Chris back to Earth, is that it's like, okay, we got to go home now. And it felt like maybe if they had, instead of just dropping that off at the end of season 2, if they had like introduced that early in season 1, it's like, oh, we were gonna go back, but something, obviously we couldn't use chaos control because there was the giant robot and Sonic had to go super Sonic to stop it, and it reset the whole thing. Like, so yeah, like maybe if there was a little bit more urgency, like if there was kind of a ticking clock, even if it was going slow, it's like, okay, we have to do this before we run out.
Yeah, to me, that's a more interesting story, man. I don't know. Neon, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me, like, the storytelling's great, and everything I know is wrong.
The storytelling of Sonic X is very much, like I said, it's the problem I have with a lot of the Digimon seasons. We have the setup and we have the beginning, the ending, but there's nothing in between really links those two. In the case of Sonic, we've got that setup of Sonic's on our world. How does he get back? But we don't explore it. We don't really explore it until the very end, and even then it's a very nothing burger of a answer.
Yeah, no, I get it. I
It-
just feel like it's sort of like, okay, I'll give you an analogy here. So for example, when you make music, right? You have to
Mhm.
either record it. I mean, today it's all on Spotify, right? You go on Spotify, you look for an artist. Heck, I don't even know how you get onto discoverability nowadays because I'm not a musician. But like back then to like when you were trying to become a musician, you would put it on a vinyl record and you had to flip the record over. So obviously you had to put like 5 or 6 songs on the record, and you have to know like when the record's going to be flipped because you have an A side and you have a B side, right? Opposed to like the same thing works like with a tape, but then you have this like with DVDs. I mean, rarely do you have 2 DVDs for a movie. You just usually just have one. Maybe like with like PlayStation games, like like Final Fantasy 8 or something or 7, you'd have like 5 discs or something, right? Whereas like but now like with Netflix, it's like completely a different experience, or like even like gaming on like Steam or whatever. You just download it and you play it. So I mean the same thing with like manga or like some of these Japanese TV shows. They probably had to make them in a way based upon how, their supplier said, "Well, you need to make it this long. You need to have these characters and you need to figure out everything goes in it." So this kind of goes into the design philosophy. It's not like, say, what is it? The companies just said, "Hey guys, go nuts. Do that old, experimental art thing you do." I don't think they could really do that. They kind of have to follow a formula. So which is why you get this, macro mini plot and, micro arc plot, right, of the story. So that's how I sort of feel that's what Sonic X is. It's kind of a victim of not I would say the Japanese structure of what makes a story or what makes a successful manga or cartoon or what the company itself needs in terms of a product. Do you know what I mean?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Can we all agree on this? Are we all on the same page, or are you at this point where
Yes.
you're shaking your head like, Radley, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
I'm still a little confused.
All right, okay. Wait, you said you're still confused or you're not?
Still a little confused.
About what?
Yes.
I mean, about the whole concept of it being macro and micro, or if I can clear
Leon, are
it.
you trying to be funny?
Oh, you're confused. Okay, all right, okay. The
Yeah.
joke's going over my head. All right.
No. I'm not being funny. I'm still a little confused on this.
Okay. I just feel like in terms of like a show, like whenever like find something that has a problem, right? Or like because my job, right? I have to bring in new clients for my job. I have to figure out what is the problem with this person. Why aren't they fitting in? And sometimes, every now and then, you find these few problems with them, and then sometimes you're like, I don't know what the fuck's wrong, or I don't know, I can't really explain it. And I feel like with Sonic X here, I feel like what doesn't work with this show? And I feel like it's a victim of its structure. And that's how I feel why we got the product we did.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I agree. The structure, it is very much. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're going at.
Yeah, maybe I got a little I got a little what's the word? Hyperbolic
Lost
with
in the weeds.
Yeah, lost in the weeds or lost in the sauce or hyperbolic with my analogies, but that's basically my argument. Because I love my metaphors. All right, well that's all I got. What about you, fellas?
All right.
Anything else?
No, again, thanks for to all our listeners for waiting for us as we come up with these new content for you. Again, you can always welcome to join us on our Discord and chit chat about this, that, and whatever. We still have, at the time of this recording, we still have one more past episode we're waiting to get edited and out to you, and then we'll be all caught up for the new year.
Hooray. I wanted to end the show with the non-Sonic quote, but I feel like that's really off-brand. because I was watching the recent. I really want to share this because I have nowhere else to share this.
Share it.
I've been watching the recent Fallout show, which I really love. Because that's like it's so good to watch good storytelling, right? And I feel like the perfect quote to end this show, but we probably should end on something different. The quote is, "Children our age would be dead right now." It's hilarious out of context. But anyway, I don't know if anybody watches that show.
I need to, but it's just I'm gonna see where it all goes.
I don't know. What are we ending on? Are we ending on that? I mean, out of
Let's do it.
context, that's
Let's go for it.
hilarious, but unless
works
there's
for
some
me.
other good Sonic X quote.
Works for me.
The only quotes I got are from Top Gear and from Boondocks, so I think yours is probably the best.
Okay, all right. Mine's a little morose. If I can't find a good Sonic X quote, I'm going with that. All right, see you guys.
See ya.
Hasta luego. We'll stomp you later.
Hey everyone, quick update before we start.
Why you changed your voice?
What?
Hi everyone.
That's how I sound.